Hey guys, before we start the show, I just want to say there's a lot of foul language in the book we're covering today, including very proficient use of a certain homophobic slur. While I'm going to do my best to try to make sure that gets edited out, I can't guarantee everything, so it might slip through. If that sort of thing upsets you, like I said, I'm going to try my best to make you avoid it as best I can, but if you get upset about those sorts of things, you have my permission to go click on a cat video. Let's face it, pop culture's overall thoughts on comic and just geek fandom in general is mixed at best. I mean, the best amount of representation we've had, or probably ever will have, remains the Big Bang Theory. Yeah, I know, there's a bunch of you out there that love the show. Heck, even I've had a few chuckles here and there, but it does just reinforce the stereotype of fanboys not being able to talk to girls, not liking sports, not being able to handle social situations, etc., etc., etc. There's never any type of property that shows them as just ordinary people who just happen to like comics. It's not just limited to the Big Bang Theory either. I mean, even when stand-up comics and prominent comic book fans Patton Oswalt and Brian Posehn pitched a series called Super Nerds, it too just kind of fell into the whole awkwardness trap. Then again, we're not exactly masters of decorum ourselves, are we? I mean, especially in recent years, it just hasn't been very fun sometimes. Case in point, in 1994, writer Don Votto killed off popular character Ice in the 85th issue of Justice League America. Fans responded by sending both Votto and DC death threats, echoing similar circumstances that writer Ron Mars went through during the Emerald Twilight storyline in Green Lantern, which saw Hal Jordan fall from grace. Votto was very good friends with independent comic book artist Evan Dorkin, most well known for the humor book Milk and Cheese. Dorkin responded by creating a series of small stories about an angry group of fanboys based out of Eltingville, New York. The Eltingville Club would run its backup stories in Dorkin's anthologies Dork and House of Fun before eventually getting a 2-issue miniseries in 2014 from Dark Horse. And that's what we're looking at today. This is the rise and fall of Bill Dickey, Josh Levy, Pete D'Annunzio, and Jerry Stokes. The Eltingville Club. The Eltingville Comic Book Sci-Fi Fantasy Horror and Role-Playing Game Club holds its weekly meeting in the basement of club leader Bill Dickey. Topics covered include a screening of The Crow, Lion King toys being given away at Burger King, and the banning of fan casting Christopher Lee in an Interview with a Vampire. The group goes over some of the more obscure purchases, film bootlegs and Famicom games and the like, when Josh presents a sex tape compilation video that he had purchased from a bootleg retailer. After a role-playing game session, the group eagerly pops in the tape, only for it to turn out to be episodes of Sid and Marty Krofft's Lidsville. The commotion caused by Josh's lashing out wakes up Bill's parents. For purposes of clarity, Bill is the group member who specializes mainly in comic books. Josh Levy is the one who specializes in science fiction and fantasy stories. Pete D'Annunzio specializes in horror, and Jerry Stokes is the RPG specialist. And yeah, they're all basically assholes. Except for Jerry, he's not so much one. The group misses out on a screening of Star Trek Generations due to Josh dubbing copies of the X-Files onto his computer. So they decide to spend their Saturday going on a comic run. Unfortunately, the bursting of the speculator bubble has left Eltingville with only one comic shop. That being Joe's Comics, the least reputable dealer in town. Joe does seem to have one thing to spark both Bill and Josh's interest, though: a 12-inch Boba Fett action figure still in package. I believe this is referencing the original Boba Fett action figure, which had to be recalled due to its firing backpack missile being a choking hazard for small children. I'm saying this because I'm pretty sure there weren't 12-inch Star Wars action figures until about 1995, so they wouldn't be fetching that high a price on the market right then. The price on the figure is $250, and as to who exactly gets to pay that amount, Bill or Josh, well, that's going to be decided in a trivia battle. Each participant gets to ask the other one a question with 30 seconds to answer, with Pete acting as a judge. Finally, after about an hour of screaming at each other, Josh slips up on the translation of Godzilla vs. the Sea Monster and storms off to get proof to support his argument and the cash to pay for the figure, with Bill doing the same. The two manage to scrounge up the dough for the figurine, only to get into another heated argument and wind up ripping the figure's head off. Now they both have to pay for it, with Bill winding up taking the head. This story was actually later adapted into a pitch pilot for a series on Adult Swim called Welcome to Eltingville. It didn't sell, however, the pilot is available online. Josh is busy setting up a display of his Star Wars figures when Bill calls him to gloat about getting the missing card in a Batman Forever Wonder Bread tie-in. It's the rarest card, and Bill ain't giving it up. To that end, Josh heads down to the local supermarket to attempt to covertly inspect several loaves for the missing card. The others, meanwhile, are buying cans of X-Men SpaghettiOs. Eventually, Josh is found out and arrested, with the others denying ever knowing him, and as a result, he winds up getting grounded and missing the premiere of Batman Forever. I should point out that all the group members are still technically in high school. I believe at some point in the story they do upgrade to college students, but I'm not entirely sure when that is. A few weeks later, the grounding is over and the group is ready to partake in the Sci-Fi Channel's 32-hour Twilight Zone marathon. This is aided by the fact that Josh's parents are out of town, so they can just crash at his place. The group stocks up on the essentials, Hot Pockets, Bagel Bites, Doritos, Joe Cola, and more, to plop down in front of the TV and begin playing a game where they try to name the episode in the first few minutes. It all goes along swimmingly well until they start hitting Season 4. Season 4 of The Twilight Zone consisted of episodes that are all an hour long each. None of them are particularly memorable. As their bodies begin crashing, the group hits the no-dos and eventually the prescription amphetamines for Josh's mom. It's then that they notice that the episodes are repeating and Jerry winds up falling asleep. Josh snaps and attacks the television set while Pete angrily calls the cable company, who he thinks owns the Sci-Fi Channel apparently. Eventually the Levies come home to a total mess and Josh with his glasses broken. Josh then spends the next few weeks flying through boxes of Kraft Dinner to get some DC Universe Weebles. The others already have them just by ripping off the proofs of purchase and sending them in while dumping the contents of the boxes in the garbage. Eventually Josh just gets sick. After that, group decides to participate in a Wizard Magazine cosplay contest. Bill and Josh both decide to be Iron Man, Jerry decides to be the Joker, and Pete decides to be Spawn. Unfortunately, each of the group's costume winds up falling apart, as Bill has absolutely no hard material, Jerry accidentally uses real paint on his face, and Josh's costume catches on fire just as it powers up. Still, Josh actually winds up winning second place, as it turns out he's the only one in the photograph on fire during the picture. The next member of the group to receive a punishment is Bill Dickey, as his mother hires two ex-geeks to jump him and hold an intervention to wean him off collectibles. Steve and Jeff used to be just like Bill until life showed them the futility of fandom. They start smashing Bill's stuff as Bill desperately tries to fight back, even going as far as to forcibly vomit on Steve. However, as the hour goes by, Bill slowly begins to gain the upper hand, eventually turning Steve and Jeff back to geekdom, though not before they wind up stealing all his stuff. Again, no one in this comic is likable. Josh begins pursuing his favorite hobby, buying signed comics and toys off the Home Shopping channel, and he's even built up a bit of a rapport with the on-camera host. That is, until Josh starts playing the geek card hardcore and taking the TV personality to task over simple name pronunciations. Josh even manages to bring Bill in on a three-way call, and the TV host is driven to the point that he starts smashing merchandise. In an odd bit of tonal whiplash, the next story is in color. Even odder still is the fact that it's the only story of this entire collection that's in color. The club is dressed up in order to participate in the Eltingville zombie crawl. Unfortunately, the fun is ruined when they get into an argument with another group over the sprinting zombies in 28 Days Later versus the shambling Romero zombies. To exact some revenge, the Eltingville club begins tripping up the sprinters and taking down several innocent bystanders in the process. This proves to be a breaking point for Jerry, who now no longer wants anything to do with this group. Also, Josh winds up giving his mother a heart attack when he returns home in his zombie makeup late at night. We now return to this being a black and white comic. Bill Dickey is ready to start his dream job of working at a comic shop, even though it says Joe's, with Joe even going as far as to charge Bill for the replacement for his rain-soaked clothes. Still, to Bill, this is the first step onward to geeky glory, even if his main job is just going through the inventory. Again, Joe Gargliano is not a respectable dealer. He swindled the original owners out of the shop. All of his autographed merchandise is in fact forged. And he won't even allow his customers to start things like a pull list or order comics that they might like a manga or something. Okay, this book came out in 2005. How the hell is this shop still open? An opportunity presents itself when Joe gets a phone call from his black market Toys R Us dealer and needs to step out to deal with a high-end inventory blowout. Bill is placed in charge, though not allowed to work behind the register. So Bill immediately goes behind the register and finds all the porn. It's then that the others arrive to find Bill working at the shop. Josh flips out as he always wanted to work at the comic shop, trying to apply on several occasions. And this proves to be a snapping point for the whole group as everyone gets pointing out each other's faults. Bill and Josh's attitudes, Jerry's timidness, and Pete's bloodlust. A massive fight breaks out involving various props throughout the store, and eventually Joe returns and kicks everyone, even Bill, out of the place. In response, Bill sets the back issues on fire, and though Jerry's high-speed sprinkler system manages to put the blaze out, the damage is so severe the shop is closed and the Eltingville Comics something club is permanently disbanded. We're not quite done yet, as we now jump 10 years into the future to the year 2015. So it's now technically in the past. Bill is at a comic book convention perusing through the back issues when Jerry taps him on the shoulder. This is an arranged reunion set up by Jerry via Facebook with the best of intentions, though both Josh and Pete still have baggage from before. Still, the foursome sits down in the commissary and proceeds to have a lunch, with Jerry talking about joining the Pro Magic the Gathering circuit, Pete talking about doing horror effects for porn, Josh talking about his review blog, which he hopes to use to launch a mainstream comic writing gig, and Bill's appraisal services that he uses to steal high-end merchandise. Things then begin to take a turn for the worse when everyone save for Jerry begins harassing female cosplayers for not being real fans. And this gets exacerbated when Mandy, a G4 reporter and Jerry's girlfriend, shows up. It's then that Bill reveals that he still has the Boba Fett head from all those years ago. This in turn causes Mandy to question as to whether or not the group was ever actually friends, and Bill snaps, revealing that girls were never allowed in the group because they ruin everything. He'd even gone as far as to purposely scare away a girl that Jerry had a crush on by saying that Jerry had lied about sleeping with her. This pushes Jerry to his limits, so he punches Bill and reveals that he's in fact Greedo1138, the online troll who's been harassing Josh for years. Now all four people are getting into a giant fight, and they wind up toppling back into the convention area and inadvertently crushing comic book legend Jim Steranko to death. Bill then grabs the megaphone and announces that there's going to be a Firefly reunion, which leads to an all-out riot. The group is forced to take refuge in a replica of Ecto-1 from Ghostbusters, where Bill once more blames Jerry for everything, causing Jerry to finally snap and decide to take his chances out in the crowd and try to find Mandy. This will be the last time Jerry ever sees his old friends in the Eltingville Club ever again. That technically ends the Eltingville Club, outside of a small backup story involving the Northwest Comics Collective, which is basically just a reimagining of the Eltingville Club, painting them all as snobby, independent comic creators who eschew mainstream comics unless they're done by Alan Moore and Neil Gaiman. So, yeah, it's just the Eltingville Club, but comic-y more. Anyway, how was the book? Well, I will say this, I do like Kevin Dorkin's artwork. I do think it does a good job of trying to emulate a humor comic. It's not over the top too gross. It's not, there's some graphicness, and obviously there's a lot of language, but that's more on the writing than the overall artwork. So, yeah, I'd say the artwork is definitely a plus. Unfortunately, that's really the only compliment I have in this. This book just isn't funny. It's vile. I get that Evan Dorkin is trying to make fun of these types of characters, and, I've liked unlikable characters. There are plenty of unlikable characters that I've absorbed throughout pop culture and history. You've got the likes of Archie Bunker, Eric Cartman, Fred Sanford, Dr. Cox, Dr. House. Again, all wholly unlikable characters, but you know what? Those characters had charm to them. They could occasionally redeem themselves every once in a while. These guys are just monsters. They're just vile. It's hard to read sometimes. Added to that, the rampant homophobia and misogyny in this book. It's just not fun at all. There's just no joy to derive, especially, if you've lived through comics fandom in the recent years. In our world of gatekeeping and stan culture, it's just not good anymore. Maybe if I were some 18 or 19-year-old edgelord, or even in my mid-20s, I could still derive joy from this, but not anymore. It's just not fun. I can't recommend this to anyone. It's just disgusting. I have to give the Eltingville Club an F. It's just a big fat failure. I'm sure Evan Dorcas has done some other stuff that's really good. Like I said, I don't hate the guy, it's just this book isn't good at all. And with that, let's see what we'll be doing next time on the Random Trade Review. Hey guys, remember you can help support the channel at patreon.com/sleepytimeforcat productions. There you can request a trade to be put in the randomizer, aka the cardboard box. And as always, remember to like, comment, share, subscribe, and ring that notification bell.